Okay, I'm going to be starting a vanity, and this vanity is going to be kind of interesting. There's going to be an open space at the bottom for like towels, and an open space at the bottom just for that furniture look. This is going within two side walls that are tiled, and the back wall is tiled as well. The customer does not want this mounted in the traditional fashion, so it's going to be a little bit different. He also wants some U-shaped drawers, which you know what those are for because of the sink trap that comes down in the water and all that stuff. So we're going to build U-shaped drawers. Now this is the time I start ripping my material down. And this is 3/4 inch pre-finish material. I'm using maple. And you'll notice that I label everything as I'm cutting all these. I'll take a first pass, and then I will change the rip fence and then make a second pass to clean up the factory edge. So both edges are very nice and straight. I'm actually going to build another cabinet as well with this, a cabinet that goes above the toilet, but I'm not going to really discuss that in this video. You'll just see it at the install. This is me cross-cutting everything to length, square up the first edge, and then bring it over to the stop block and do the rest. All right, so that's the blade I was just using. I use it so infrequently. Look at that. It says last sharpened 1108. That's crazy. Here's a tip. If you do a lot of work with dados joinery, you should have a sample block. Let me show you. Okay, this is it right here. I've got 3 sample blocks, and they're double-sided, and they have notes in them. And basically what I do is I just go around and I just check to see, what fits in what. So if I go here and I look at this ultralight MDF, this is what I use a lot, right? With the 3/32 chipper, I can see if that's going to fit this material. So I take this block and I go right over here to my 3/4 material and put it in the slot. Let's see if it fits. Okay, so right off the bat, we can see this does not fit. I'll have to use the 3/32 chipper, but I'm gonna have to use a shim to make this fit good. And so in my notes, I can take this guy and see how this fits. Oh yeah, that fits nice right there. So I can tell you right there, that's a pretty good fit. Put those on. When you install chippers and when you install shims, it's really easy to get these guys stuck on a thread. When you put these in, you'll know what I'm talking about. So you want to really make sure that the shim is placed flat up against the chipper. I prefer to put my gauge on my outside chipper that has the top bevel right there. So I want to put it on that top point of that chipper, not on the raker tooth. I want that highest point, and that's just the way that I've always done it. Okay, so that guy looks good. So you can see it's just barely touching that. Okay, as with everything, we want to make test runs. So I'm going to check the fit, and I'm going to make sure everything is good before we move on. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a scrap piece and run it. And you'll notice that I use the overarm guard all the time. Even when it's not a through cut, I still like to use it. So let's take a look at this. What's impressive about this is my original dado set. This has not been sharpened one time. And this is going on seriously forever and a day, this set. And I use it primarily for all my ultralight MDF jobs. So everything gets used with this set. All right, we'll go ahead and take a look at this, see how it fits. That fits really nice. So just right off the bat, we know that's going to work good. Okay. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to make this dado, it's going to be 4 1/4 up to the top of the dado, and then I'm going to make this 12-inch one. And then we'll make the rabbit at the top of the side pieces. Then of course the center dividers. Now we're ready to go ahead and run these guys. Make sure that double check and make sure that you're measuring to the right side of the dado. So if it's to the start of the dado or the top of the dado, the bottom of the dado, whatever your measurement is, just want to make sure and double check that you've got it right. Because if you screw up now, it's not good. And I've got my location marks there, little witness marks, so I know which part to dado. And I'm going to go ahead and run it. The key is to just take your time with these, because the slower you go, the better results you're going to get. It's going to have less strain on your saw, especially if you have an underpowered saw. But really, nice dado sets have a little bit more resistance when you push the wood through because they have more teeth. More teeth mean less feed rate. All right, let me quickly change that dimension to 12 inches and dado those out. This area here is going to be bigger than the middle area, and same with the other side. There's going to be a sink here and a sink here, and there's going to be drawers in the middle. We don't have a ton of room to work with, right? The whole cabinet's 65 inches wide, and the sinks are small, but you know, it's still, there's not a lot of room. So the plumbing comes in at 14 inches to the center and 15 inches on this side to the center. So the plumbing I already looked at as far as the measurements go, and that's important to know because where you put the sink, you know, it should be in line with that, but also the height of it, because this has a shelf there, a couple of shelves. You want to make sure that the plumbing with the trap and everything is above the shelf. The sink is 20 inches. To know where to set up my dado set, so it's going to be just over 23.5. Also, when I'm doing this, I also want to make notes as to where these dados are going to go, what side they're going to be on, because as you do this, you want to keep things organized. That's going to be rabbited. I'm going to make note of the back, so that's going to be the back side. So I know that's going to be good. Now this piece again is set like this because it's going to be the top piece. So okay, to do the rabbits, I'm going to put my sacrificial fence on, and you'll notice the hold down that I'm using has an opening in the middle. That's nice because I can see the contact. I can measure the width of my rabbits, so I kind of like that custom hold down that I use. It's the same one I use for the shaper. Just take your time, go slowly, and you'll end up with nice clean cuts. Okay, that last pass, you saw me do this. This was the top rabbit. I checked the fit for my top piece. It's going to be going across here. Make sure that's flush. Those are the two bottom dados. Now, what I need to do is, see what's nice about having these marked is that I know this is the one I want to go with. And if you take this and pair it up with its mate, you can see I have a back there and a back there. So I'm not going to end up with two rights or two lefts, right? Now also what I want to note is that for my backs, this is why you want to make sure that you cut all your dados first, all your parts that are going to be for dividers and all that stuff. Do that first. The rabbits I make taller so that I have more glue surface area. So not only do I change the width on this, I want to make it taller. So I actually increase it 3/16 of an inch. Okay, and you can see this hold down really helps me keep contact with the table saw surface, especially with these longer pieces. It's one thing to cut these without a hold down on short pieces, but when you have really long pieces that are heavy, 60 something inches is not really long, but they are heavy. Close so you can see. So that's the brad point bit, and I want to line it up with that line. when I do that, I can see where that brad point bit is going to hit just because of that center spur. And see how nice it is to have these bits? And these are carbide tipped, very nice. Now finally we're ready to start assembling this cabinet, and I'm going to go ahead and use glue and 18 gauge brad nails for this. And after I assembled this, I realized that it was very difficult for me to get in and nail the center dividers in. So if I were to do this one again, I would have put the middle horizontal in and then put the vertical dividers, those guys right there, because I've absolutely no room to get a nail gun in, so I had to use my little pin nailer, and it barely had enough room. Lesson learned. This took a little while, but with all the dados and glue and rabbets and everything, it goes together pretty nicely. Glue on the back, even though this is pre-finished material. All right, after you put the back on, it's always a good idea to check for square, make sure everything is nice. I do that by measuring the diagonals, so it's very important. You also note that when I put this together, I made marks on my cabinet so I know where the dividers are, so that I'm just not blind nailing this guy on. Those marks come in handy because once you put the backs on, you cannot see anything. So it's a good idea to just put marks. And this guy is done. We'll take a look and see if there's any glue squeeze out inside. And it looks great. On the platform, it is drying, and I love these platforms. Now I can go ahead and start working on the face frames. Okay, I always have these marks where I put my first holes. So let me just wipe that. If you use this, you're going to find that the alcohol is going to come off. It's going to dry up a bit. But look at how easy this comes off. I mean, it is just ridiculously easy. And there's no residue. That's the key. Now to start the face frames, what I do is I just take all my material. I rough cut it all so it's easier to work with. And joint everything. Get rid of any sawn edge. And then just rip and joint until everything is perfect. All parts are clean and 90 degrees with no saw marks. It takes a little bit of time, but this is what really helps cabinets look really nice. Go to the miter saw station, and with the use of all my stops, I can go ahead and cut everything to length. It's really nice having big workbenches where you can assemble these big face frames. And although this isn't that big, it's just really nice to have plenty of room to clamp everything down. And as you'll notice that I use spacers for all my dividers so everything is consistent. I went and checked everything on the workpiece and marked for those vertical dividers to make sure they're perfect, and pocketed them together. Of course, after I glue everything up, I want to sand this before I actually glue this onto the cabinet. And I ease all the edges inside and out. Be very careful. This is a very important step. Don't skip it. Okay, now sometimes I take the cabinets over to the workbench and put them on the workbench to put the clamps on. But in other cases, I will do it on my platforms. And I prefer this method for a couple of reasons. One is I don't have to lift it, right? Two, I can control the application of the face frame a little bit better. Here, all I have to do is set it right here. Now, I don't have to worry about the glue getting, spread around. I just move it to where I want it, right? It's very easy, and I can push it up there. And I like when I do these face frames when I do it like this. I like to use my applicator, glue applicator that's like this because it really helps. I don't have to worry about the glue bottle, running out.
Up close. Put that right in the middle. As it is a normal glue bottle. It's not as fun.
Okay, now this guy's gonna have a interior for the drawers. These ones here, it's gonna be almost flush. It's in just a little from flush. So those are gonna be my first ones that I put on. Okay, this looks great. Like I said, I don't use these normally, but sometimes they work good. I would recommend sanding, again, the face frame just lightly after you're done clamping, especially when you use these little guys there. Okay, this is the end of the first episode of this Vanity. Next time we'll do the drawers, doors, and we'll install the cabinet. See you next time.